The rain hammered against the tall windows of the velvet room, creating rivulets that distorted the glowing lights of Manhattan's Upper East Side. Emma Collins wiped down the mahogany bar for the third time that evening, her movements automatic after 7 years of the same routine. The clock behind her read 9:47 p.m., 13 minutes until he would arrive. She didn't know why she always noticed. Maybe it was the way the atmosphere shifted when he walked in, or perhaps it was simply habit. Every Tuesday and Friday, like clockwork, the man in the tailored charcoal suit would push through those heavy glass doors at precisely 10 o'clock. "You're doing it again," Sarah whispered, sliding up beside Emma with a tray of empty glasses. Her best friend and fellow bartender had worked at the Velvet Room for 3 years, but she'd picked up on Emma's unconscious awareness of their most consistent customer almost immediately. "Doing what?" Emma asked, though she knew exactly what Sarah meant. "That thing where you get all focused right before Mr. Mysterious shows up." Sarah grinned, dumping the glasses into the wash basin. 7 years, Em. 7 years of the same guy, same corner booth, same drink. Don't you ever wonder about him? Emma shrugged, reaching for a bottle of premium whiskey to check the inventory. "He's just a regular customer. We have dozens of them." "Yeah, but none of them look like they walked out of a magazine spread for Dangerous Men Monthly." Sarah laughed, but her expression grew more serious. "And none of them have guys in suits who clear out half the room just by existing." That part was true. Emma had noticed over the years that whenever the man arrived, certain other patrons would finish their drinks quickly and leave. The staff had learned to keep the 2 tables nearest his preferred corner booth empty, though no manager had ever explicitly stated that rule. It was just understood. The Velvet Room catered to New York's elite, corporate executives, old money families, celebrities who wanted privacy. The bar's dark wood paneling, leather booths, and dim amber lighting created an atmosphere of exclusivity and discretion. Emma had served senators, Broadway stars, and tech billionaires, but none of them commanded attention quite like him. "I mind my own business," Emma finally answered, arranging clean glasses on the back shelf. "That's why I've lasted 7 years in this place. People come here because we don't ask questions." Sarah opened her mouth to respond, but the soft chime of the entrance door cut her off. Both women glanced at the clock simultaneously. 10:00 p.m. exactly. He entered, as he always did. Purposeful strides, dark eyes scanning the room in a way that seemed casual but wasn't. His charcoal suit was impeccably tailored, probably custom-made to fit his tall, athletic frame. Dark hair, slightly longer on top, with just a hint of gray at the temples that Emma guessed put him somewhere in his late 30s. His face was all sharp angles and strong lines, the kind of handsome that intimidated rather than invited. 2 men followed him at a respectful distance, both wearing dark suits and expressions that suggested they were more than simple business associates. They took positions at the bar, while he moved toward his usual corner booth, the one with a clear view of both entrances and the back hallway. "Your turn," Sarah murmured, already moving toward the other end of the bar. Emma took a steadying breath. Ridiculous, really, that after 7 years she still felt that small flutter of nerves, and reached for the bottle of Macallan 25. She poured exactly 2 fingers into a crystal tumbler, no ice, and placed it on a small serving tray with a cloth napkin. The walk to his booth took perhaps 20 seconds, but Emma was acutely aware of every step. She could feel eyes on her, not just his, but those of his companions at the bar and the handful of other patrons who recognized the hierarchy at play. "Good evening," she said, setting the glass down on the dark wood table. "Your usual." He looked up from his phone, and for a moment his dark eyes met hers. They were the color of espresso, almost black in the dim lighting, and they held an intensity that made her want to look away. But she'd learned years ago that looking away felt like weakness, so she held his gaze. "Thank you, Emma." His voice was deep, smooth, with the faintest trace of an accent she'd never quite placed. Italian, maybe, though softened by years in New York. He'd learned her name within the first month of his visits. She'd never learned his. "Is there anything else I can get for you?" she asked, maintaining her professional demeanor. "Not at the moment." His eyes lingered on her face for a heartbeat longer than necessary. "How have you been?" It was unusual for him to ask. Their interactions were typically brief, transactional. Emma felt off balance. "I've been well, thank you. Busy, but that's nothing new. You work too many shifts." It wasn't a question. "I've noticed you're here every night this week." The observation sent a strange chill down her spine. He noticed her schedule. "Rent in Manhattan doesn't pay itself," she replied with a small smile, trying to keep her tone light. "And we're short-staffed at the moment." He nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. That building you live in on 73rd Street. The landlord is raising rent again, isn't he? Emma's smile faltered. How did he know where she lived? She'd never mentioned it. Her mind raced through possible explanations, each more unsettling than the last. She started, but he raised a hand slightly. I apologize. That was inappropriate. He picked up his glass, swirling the amber liquid. I overstep sometimes. Occupational habit. What occupation would that be? The question slipped out before Emma could stop herself. In 7 years, she'd never asked him anything personal. His lips curved into something that might have been a smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. I solve problems. Make sure things run smoothly. Protect investments. It was the vaguest answer possible while technically being an answer. Emma recognized the deflection. That sounds complicated. It can be. He took a sip of his whiskey, still watching her. But some things are simple, like appreciating good service and consistency in a world that offers very little of either. There was something in the way he said it, a weight, a weariness, that made Emma see him differently for just a moment. Not as the intimidating figure in the corner booth, but as someone who carried heavy burdens. Well, consistency is my specialty, she said, recovering her professional composure. Same time, same drink, for as long as you keep coming back. 7 years, he said quietly. Has it really been that long? Every Tuesday and Friday at 10 p.m., Emma confirmed. I could set my watch by you, and in all that time, you've never asked me my name. He tilted his head slightly, studying her. Why is that? Emma considered her answer carefully. Because you've never offered it, and because I figured if you wanted me to know, you would have told me. Wise, he acknowledged. Your discretion is one of the things I appreciate about you, Emma. In my world, people who know when not to ask questions are invaluable. Before Emma could process that statement, one of the men from the bar approached the booth. He was shorter than the man she was serving, but built like he spent most of his life in a gym. His nose looked like it had been broken more than once. Boss, the man said quietly, leaning down. We've got a situation. The shipment. Not now, Tony. The words were soft but carried absolute authority. Tony straightened immediately, his face flushing slightly. Yes, boss. Sorry, boss. Tony retreated back to the bar, and Emma realized she'd just learned something significant. This man wasn't just wealthy or powerful in the conventional sense. People called him boss with a deference that went beyond simple employment. I should let you get back to work, he said to Emma, though his tone suggested it was more about dismissing her than concern for her duties. Of course. Please let me know if you need anything. Emma turned to leave, grateful for the escape. Her heart was beating faster than it should, her mind churning with questions she didn't want to acknowledge. As she walked back to the bar, she felt his eyes on her back, watching, always watching. What was that about? Sarah asked when Emma returned. You were over there longer than usual. Nothing, Emma lied, busying herself with rearranging bottles that didn't need rearranging. Just the usual. But it wasn't usual. Something had shifted tonight, though Emma couldn't quite name what. The comfortable distance of 7 years, the unspoken agreement that they would remain strangers who shared a routine, felt like it was beginning to crack. The rest of the evening passed in its typical rhythm. The mysterious man in the corner booth received 2 more drinks over the course of 3 hours, each delivered by Emma with the same professional courtesy. He made several phone calls, stepping outside for some and taking others at the table. Men came and went from his booth, all wearing expensive suits, all treating him with visible respect and, in some cases, fear. Emma tried not to watch, but it was impossible not to notice. The Velvet Room had always attracted powerful people, but there was something different about him. Something that made even the Wall Street executives and political consultants give him a wide berth. At 1:15 a.m., as she had for 7 years, Emma watched him stand, button his suit jacket, and prepare to leave. He always left cash on the table, far more than the cost of his drinks, and never waited for change. Tonight, however, he paused at the bar on his way out. Emma was counting receipts, and she looked up in surprise when he stopped directly in front of her. Emma, he said, and she noticed that Tony and the other man had moved to flank him, hands crossed in front of them like Secret Service agents. I want you to know something. Yes? Her voice came out smaller than she intended. This bar, this neighborhood, it's under protection. That protection extends to everyone who works here. His dark eyes held hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. If anyone ever makes you feel unsafe, If anyone threatens you or makes you uncomfortable, I want you to tell me. Can you do that? Emma didn't know what to say. The statement itself was kind, protective even, but the implication was disturbing. Protection from what? And why would he offer it to her specifically? Thank you? It came out as a question. He nodded once, seeming satisfied. Have a good night, Emma. I'll see you Friday. And then he was gone, his two companions falling into step behind him as they exited into the rainy Manhattan night. Sarah immediately appeared at Emma's elbow. Okay, what was that? I have no idea, Emma admitted, staring at the door where he disappeared. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she pressed them flat against the bar to steady them. That was weird, right? That was definitely weird. Sarah's eyes were wide. That guy is not just some businessman, you know that, right? I don't know anything, Emma said firmly. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. She did know. She'd known on some level for years, but had chosen not to acknowledge it. The deference, the security, the way people behaved around him, it all pointed to something outside the boundaries of legitimate business. Maybe you should ask Marcus, Sarah suggested, referring to their manager. He's been here longer than either of us. He probably knows who that guy really is. Emma shook her head. No, if there's one thing I've learned working here, it's that some things are better left unknown. But as she finished closing down the bar that night, as she walked to the subway station through streets still wet from earlier rain, Emma couldn't stop thinking about him, about the way he'd known where she lived, about the protective statement, about 7 years of careful distance suddenly feeling less secure. Her apartment was small and outdated, a fifth-floor walk-up in a building that had seen better decades. But it was hers, and it was safe, and it was separate from the velvet room and the mysterious world that existed in that corner booth. As Emma unlocked her door and stepped inside, she noticed something that made her freeze. On her small kitchen table, where there had been nothing when she left for work, sat a white envelope. Her heart pounding, Emma approached slowly. The envelope was expensive paper, heavy and cream-colored, with her name written across it in elegant script. Inside was a single card and 5 crisp $100 bills. The card read, "For the rent increase. Consider it a thank you for 7 years of excellent service. You shouldn't have to work yourself to exhaustion. LM." Emma's hands shook as she held the card. LM. Those were his initials. But more disturbing than the money or the gesture was the inescapable fact that someone had been inside her apartment. Someone had crossed the sacred boundary between her professional life and her private world. She walked to her window and looked out at the Manhattan skyline, its million lights glittering against the dark sky. Somewhere out there, he was awake too, watching over his empire, solving problems, protecting investments, and somehow, impossibly, terrifyingly, she had become one of those investments. Emma Collins didn't sleep that night. She sat at her kitchen table staring at the money and the card, knowing that everything had changed. 7 years of comfortable routine had ended the moment he decided to notice her, as more than just the bartender who served his drinks. She didn't know what came next. But as Friday's shift approached with its inevitable 10 p.m. arrival, Emma realized, with a mixture of dread and something else she didn't want to name, that she was about to find out. The man in the corner booth had made his move, and there was no going back to the way things were before. Emma had replayed the conversation with herself 100 times since Tuesday night. She would return the money. She would politely but firmly establish boundaries. She would make it clear that while she appreciated his generosity, she couldn't accept gifts from customers no matter how well-intentioned. But Friday came, and the envelope with its $500 remained in her kitchen drawer, untouched. Every time she reached for it, planning to bring it back, something stopped her. Fear? Curiosity? Or perhaps the uncomfortable reality that her landlord had indeed raised the rent, and those bills would cover exactly the difference she couldn't afford. "You look exhausted," Sarah observed as they prepared the bar for the evening shift. "Did you sleep at all this week?" "Not much," Emma admitted, arranging glassware with more force than necessary. "I've had a lot on my mind. Let me guess. Tall, dark, and mysterious?" Sarah raised an eyebrow. "He's been living in your head rent-free since Tuesday, hasn't he?" Emma wanted to correct her to say it wasn't like that, but the truth was complicated. Yes, he'd been occupying her thoughts constantly, but not in the way Sarah implied. It was the envelope that haunted her, the violation of her privacy, the unspoken implications of a gesture that seemed kind on the surface, but carried undertones she didn't fully understand. The evening crowd filtered in gradually, the usual Friday mix of professionals unwinding after a long week, couples on expensive dates, groups celebrating promotions or closed deals. Emma moved through her routine mechanically, mixing cocktails and making small talk, all while acutely aware of the approaching hour. 9:47 p.m., 13 minutes. "Emma, table 6 needs another round," Marcus called from the end of the bar. Their manager was a stout man in his 50s who'd worked at the Velvet Room for over 20 years. He knew everyone, remembered everything, and rarely showed emotion beyond professional courtesy. As Emma prepared the drinks, she noticed Marcus watching her with an unusual expression, something between concern and calculation. "You doing okay?" he asked quietly when she returned with the empty tray. "Fine. Why?" Marcus glanced toward the corner booth, still empty, then back at her. "Just checking. Sometimes this job, it puts us in complex situations. If you ever need to talk, my door's open." There was something in his tone that suggested he knew more than he was saying. But before Emma could respond, the door chimed. 10 p.m. exactly. He entered differently tonight. Emma noticed it immediately. There was tension in his shoulders, a tightness around his eyes. The two men who accompanied him, Tony and another she recognized from Tuesday, seemed more alert, their eyes constantly scanning the room. Something was wrong. He moved to his usual booth but didn't sit immediately. Instead, he stood, buttoning and unbuttoning his suit jacket, a nervous gesture Emma had never seen from him before. When his eyes found hers across the room, there was an intensity that made her breath catch. Emma prepared his drink without being asked, her hand steady despite the anxiety coiling in her stomach. As she approached the booth, she noticed he was on his phone, speaking in rapid Italian. His voice was low, controlled, but there was an edge to it. He ended the call as she set down his glass. Emma, her name on his lips sounded different tonight, weighted with something she couldn't identify. "Your usual," she said, falling back on routine because it was all she had. "Thank you." He gestured to the seat across from him. "Sit with me for a moment." It wasn't a request. Emma glanced back at the bar where Sarah was watching with wide eyes. Marcus gave her a subtle nod. Permission, or perhaps acknowledgement of something inevitable. Emma slid into the booth, feeling exposed and uncertain. This wasn't how things worked. 7 years of boundaries, and now everything was shifting too fast. "Did you receive my gift?" he asked, his dark eyes studying her face. "I did." Emma chose her words carefully. "It was very generous, but I can't accept it. I brought it with me tonight to return." "No." The single word carried absolute finality. It wasn't a gift. It was compensation for services rendered. "But I haven't rendered any services beyond serving drinks," Emma protested. "That's already part of my job." His lips curved into something that might have been a smile. "You've provided something far more valuable than drinks, Emma. Consistency, normalcy, a few hours each week where the world operates by simple, predictable rules." He leaned forward slightly. "Do you have any idea how rare that is?" Emma didn't know how to respond. The vulnerability in his words contradicted everything about his intimidating presence. "I need you to understand something," he continued, his voice dropping lower. "The world I operate in is complicated. There are people who would use any perceived weakness against me. Relationships, connections, they're all potential leverage. I don't understand what that has to do with me," Emma said, though part of her was beginning to suspect. "You've been a constant in my life for 7 years. People notice patterns. And some people," he paused, jaw tightening, "some people make assumptions about what those patterns mean." Before Emma could process that statement, the atmosphere in the Velvet Room changed. It was subtle at first. A shift in energy, a sudden alertness in Tony and his companion at the bar. Emma saw them exchange glances, hands moving inside their jackets. 3 men entered the bar. They wore expensive suits, but there was something different about them. Sharper, more aggressive. The lead man was tall with silver gray hair, wearing a smile that didn't reach his cold blue eyes. Emma watched as every muscle in her companion's body tensed. His hand moved to touch her arm, his grip gentle but urgent. "Emma, I need you to stay calm and do exactly as I say." "What's happening?" Fear crept into her voice. "Those men, they're not here for drinks." His eyes never left the approaching group. "They're here because of me. And because you're sitting at this table right now, they're going to notice you." "I should leave." Emma started to slide out of the booth, but his hand tightened on her arm. "No, moving now draws more attention. Just stay still." The 3 men approached their booth, The silver-haired man's smile widened as his gaze moved between Emma and the man across from her. "Liam Moretti," the stranger said, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet section of the bar. "We need to talk." So that was his name, Liam Moretti. After 7 years, Emma finally knew. "This isn't the time or place, Vincent," Liam said calmly, though Emma could feel the tension radiating from him. "Call my office. Schedule an appointment." Vincent laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Your office hasn't been returning my calls, so I thought I'd come somewhere you frequent. See what's so special about this place." His eyes landed on Emma, and she felt examined, catalogued, assessed. "Or perhaps who's so special?" "The lady has nothing to do with our business," Liam said, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. "She's simply an employee here." "Is that so?" Vincent leaned against the booth, his proximity making Emma want to shrink back. 7 years is a long time to be simply an employee. That kind of loyalty is rare. Valuable, even. Emma's heart pounded. She could see Tony and the other man moving closer, positioning themselves strategically. Other patrons were beginning to notice the tension, conversations dropping to whispers. "You're making a mistake," Liam said quietly. "This establishment is neutral territory. It always has been." "Territories change," Vincent replied. "Agreements expire, and I think it's time we renegotiated the terms of your arrangement in this city." Marcus appeared suddenly at the edge of the booth, his normally calm face showing strain. "Gentlemen, I'm going to have to ask you to take this conversation outside. We don't want any trouble here." Vincent ignored him completely, his attention fixed on Liam. "You've gotten comfortable, Moretti. Predictable. Coming to the same place, same time, week after week. That kind of routine makes a man vulnerable." Emma watched as Liam's expression hardened into something she'd never seen before. Cold, calculating, dangerous. "If you think routine makes me vulnerable, you've severely miscalculated." The tension was suffocating. Emma could feel the attention of everyone in the bar focused on their booth. Sarah had moved behind the bar, phone in hand, calling the authorities, Emma hoped. "Here's what's going to happen," Vincent said, straightening. "You're going to meet with my associates tonight. We have proposals to discuss regarding territorial arrangements. And if I decline?" Vincent's smile grew wider. "Then we'll have to find other ways to motivate you, perhaps through people you care about." His eyes flicked deliberately to Emma. "It would be unfortunate if something happened to this lovely establishment, or its employees." Emma felt cold fear wash over her. This wasn't a business disagreement, this was a threat. And somehow, impossibly, she'd become part of it simply by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Liam stood slowly, his movement controlled and deliberate. "Emma, go back to the bar, now." But before Emma could move, one of Vincent's companions stepped forward, blocking her exit from the booth. "Actually, I think the lady should stay, just to ensure everyone remains calm." Everything happened very quickly after that. Tony moved forward, intercepting Vincent's man. There were sharp words exchanged, too quick for Emma to follow. Marcus was shouting something about the authorities being on their way. Other patrons were scrambling toward the exits, not wanting to be involved in whatever was unfolding. Liam's hand found Emma's, his grip firm. "When I say move, you go straight to the back hallway. There's an exit through the kitchen. Do you understand?" Emma nodded, her throat too tight to speak. "Your protection only extends so far, Moretti," Vincent said, his casual demeanor cracking slightly. "This city's changing. Your family's influence isn't what it used to be. My family has been protecting this city's interests for 3 generations. Liam replied, his voice carrying authority that seemed to fill the space. "We'll still be here when opportunists like you are long forgotten." Vincent's face flushed with anger. Big words from a man who's about to lose everything he's built. "The only thing I'm about to lose is my patience," Liam said. "You have 10 seconds to leave this establishment. If you're still here after that, we'll resolve this my way instead of yours." For a long moment, the two men stared at each other, a battle of wills playing out in silence. Emma could hear her own heartbeat, feel the trembling in her hands. The bar had gone almost completely quiet, everyone frozen in place. Finally, Vincent stepped back. "This isn't over, Moretti. Not even close." He glanced once more at Emma, his expression making her skin crawl. "I hope for everyone's sake that you're not as attached to this place or its people as it appears." The 3 men retreated toward the entrance, but their departure didn't ease the tension. If anything, it seemed to intensify it. The moment they were gone, Liam turned to Emma, his expression shifting from cold authority to something like concern. "Are you all right?" "I don't—" "What just happened?" Emma's voice shook. Who were those people? What did they want? Liam exchanged a glance with Tony, some silent communication passing between them. Emma, I need you to listen very carefully. What you witnessed tonight puts you in a complicated position. Complicated how? Those men, they're competitors. They operate in the same business sphere as my family, and now they've seen you with me, sitting at my table during what they perceive as a vulnerable moment. Liam's jaw tightened. They're going to make assumptions, dangerous assumptions. Emma felt like the floor was tilting beneath her. What kind of assumptions? That you matter to me, that you could be used as leverage. He ran a hand through his hair, the first truly agitated gesture she'd ever seen from him. I've put you at risk, and I take full responsibility for that. I'm just a bartender, Emma protested, hearing the edge of panic in her own voice. I served you drinks, that's all. They can't possibly think. 7 years, Emma. Every Tuesday and Friday. People in my world pay attention to patterns. They look for weaknesses, for pressure points. His dark eyes held hers with unsettling intensity. And right now, whether you like it or not, you've become visible to people who would exploit any perceived connection to me. Marcus approached the booth cautiously. Liam, the authorities will be here soon. You should probably. I'm aware. Liam's tone was clipped. Has your security footage been secured? Already handled. The last 30 minutes will show nothing unusual. Just normal Friday night business. Marcus glanced at Emma apologetically. I'm sorry you got caught up in this. Emma looked between the two men, realization dawning. You knew. You've known all along who he is, what he does. Marcus had the grace to look uncomfortable. This establishment has operated successfully for 40 years because we understand discretion. We serve our clientele without judgment and maintain privacy for all parties. Discretion? Emma stood abruptly, needing space to process everything crashing down on her. I've been serving someone for 7 years, and no one thought to warn me that she couldn't even finish the sentence. What was she accusing Liam of? She still didn't fully understand what his business actually was, only that it existed in shadows and involved territorial disputes and implied threats. I specifically requested that the staff not be informed about my identity, Liam said. I wanted this place to remain separate from my other obligations. A refuge, in a sense. He stood as well, his height suddenly intimidating in a way it hadn't been before. That was selfish. And now you're paying the price for my selfishness. What price? Emma demanded. What exactly am I paying? Your safety may be compromised. Vincent and his associates now know you exist. Know there's a connection between us, even if that connection is minimal. They'll investigate you, learn everything they can about your life, looking for ways to use that information. Emma felt sick. This is insane. This doesn't happen to people like me. It does when people like you become visible to people like them. Liam's voice softened slightly. Emma, I know this is overwhelming, but I need you to make a decision right now. What decision? Whether you trust me enough to let me protect you. The question hung in the air between them. Trust him? She didn't even know him. 7 years of serving drinks didn't equal knowledge, didn't create understanding. He was a stranger who'd suddenly dragged her into a world she didn't understand and didn't want any part of. But even as those thoughts raced through her mind, Emma recognized a more uncomfortable truth. She was already involved. Whether she'd chosen it or not, the moment Vincent had looked at her and made his calculations, her role had shifted from bystander to participant. Protect me how? She asked finally. Come with me tonight. Let my people ensure you're secure while we assess the situation and determine the best course of action. Come with you where? Somewhere safe. Somewhere Vincent can't reach you while we figure out what his actual intentions are. Emma laughed, but it sounded hollow even to her own ears. You're asking me to leave with you, go to some undisclosed location, based on a threat I don't fully understand from people whose names I didn't know an hour ago. Yes, Liam said simply. I know how that sounds. But the alternative is you go home tonight to an address that's now compromised and hope that Vincent's interest in you was merely performative. How is my address compromised? Liam's expression turned grim. Emma, if I knew where you lived weeks ago, Vincent knows by now. That's how this works. Information is currency in my world, and you've just become a person of interest. The reality of the situation finally penetrated Emma's shock. Her apartment, her safe space, was no longer safe. These strangers knew where she slept, where she was vulnerable. The thought made her want to throw up. Sarah appeared at Emma's side, having navigated through the chaos of the half-empty bar. Em, what's happening? Marcus said you might need to leave for a while. I don't know, Emma admitted. This is all happening too fast. You have to decide now, Liam said, not unkindly. The authorities will arrive soon, and when they do, there will be questions, reports. Your name will be documented as a witness. That makes you even more visible, more accessible. Emma looked at Sarah, at Marcus, at the bar that had been her workplace for 7 years. Then she looked at Liam Moretti, the mysterious customer who'd shattered her comfortable routine and revealed a world she'd been naive enough to think didn't touch her life. "If I come with you," she said slowly, "what exactly am I agreeing to? Security, protection, and time to understand the situation before making any permanent decisions." Liam extended his hand. "I give you my word that no harm will come to you under my protection. And when this is resolved, if you want to walk away from all of this, I'll ensure you can do so safely." Emma stared at his outstretched hand. 7 years ago, she'd served him his first drink, never imagining it would lead here, to this impossible choice in a half-empty bar with the sound of approaching sirens in the distance. She thought about her small apartment, her predictable life, her careful routine. And she thought about Vincent's cold eyes and calculated smile, about threats delivered in casual tones, about a world operating just beneath the surface of normal life. Emma Collins had always played it safe, had always chosen security over risk, routine over adventure. But safety was an illusion now, shattered as completely as the comfortable distance she'd maintained from the man in the corner booth. She took his hand. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll trust you." Liam's fingers closed around hers. Warm, steady, anchoring. "Thank you. I promise I'll keep you safe." As he led her toward the back hallway, away from the approaching authorities and the remnants of her ordinary life, Emma realized with absolute clarity that everything had changed. There would be no returning to normal Tuesday and Friday nights, no comfortable anonymity behind the bar. The man in the corner booth had claimed her, whether she fully understood what that meant or not. And as they disappeared into the Manhattan night, Emma wondered if she'd just made the best decision of her life or the most dangerous mistake she'd ever make. The car was unlike anything Emma had ever been in. Sleek black exterior, interior that smelled of expensive leather and subtle cologne. Tony drove while another of Liam's men sat in the passenger seat, both silent and alert. Liam sat beside Emma in the back, his presence somehow both comforting and unsettling. Manhattan's lights blurred past the tinted windows as they traveled uptown, away from the Velvet Room, away from everything familiar. Emma's phone buzzed in her purse. Sarah probably worried and confused. Emma didn't know what to tell her. She barely understood what was happening herself. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice sounding small in the quiet car. "Somewhere secure," Liam replied. "A property in Tribeca. Private building. Controlled access. 24-hour security." "You mean your home?" "One of them." He glanced at her, his expression difficult to read in the dim light. "I own several properties throughout the city. This one is the most secure." Emma absorbed this information, adding it to the growing list of things she was learning about the man she'd served drinks to for 7 years. "How many is several? Does it matter?" The question wasn't dismissive, merely curious. "I suppose not," Emma admitted. "I'm just trying to understand who you really are." Beyond the corner booth and the whiskey, Liam was quiet for a moment, his gaze fixed on something outside the window. "My family has been in New York for 3 generations. My grandfather came from Sicily in 1952, with nothing but ambition and a willingness to do what others wouldn't. He built an empire from the ground up, initially in import and export, then expanding into real estate, construction, consulting." "Consulting," Emma repeated, hearing the weight behind the word. "Problem solving," Liam clarified. "People come to my family when the conventional channels fail them, when they need results that the normal systems can't or won't provide." "That sounds deliberately vague." "It is." He turned to look at her fully. "Emma, there are things about my business that you're better off not knowing. Details that would only put you in more danger than you already are." "I think that ship has sailed," Emma said, surprised by the edge in her own voice. "I'm sitting in your car being driven to your secure property because your business competitors threatened me in my workplace. I'm already in danger. Maybe I deserve to know why." Liam studied her for a long moment, something like respect flickering in his dark eyes. "Fair enough. My family operates in the spaces between legal and illegal, between official channels and unofficial solutions. We manage territories, settle disputes, provide protection to businesses that need it. Some people call it organized crime. We call it organized commerce. The honesty was jarring. Emma had expected more deflection, more vague explanations. And Vincent? The man from the bar? Vincent Calabresi. His family operates out of Brooklyn. They've been trying to expand into Manhattan for the past 5 years, pushing into territories that have been under Moretti protection for decades. Liam's jaw tightened. He's ambitious, reckless, and he doesn't respect the old agreements that keep the city functioning smoothly. What does he want from you? Control? Market share? Respect he hasn't earned. Liam's voice carried disdain. He thinks intimidation and aggression can replace strategy and relationships. Tonight was his way of demonstrating that he knows my routines, my vulnerabilities. And I'm a vulnerability now, Emma said quietly. You became one the moment he saw you at my table and decided you mattered to me. But I don't. Emma stopped, uncertain how to finish that sentence. We barely know each other. That's irrelevant to people like Vincent. He doesn't care about the reality of our relationship. He cares about the perception. 7 years of loyalty, of consistency, that suggests a connection worth exploiting. The car pulled up to a modern building in Tribeca, all glass and steel and understated luxury. A uniformed doorman approached immediately, opening Liam's door with practiced efficiency. Good evening, Mr. Moretti. James. Liam nodded, then came around to open Emma's door himself, offering his hand to help her out. The gesture was old-fashioned, courteous, completely at odds with everything else about him. The lobby was marble and minimalist design, with abstract art on the walls that probably cost more than Emma made in a year. They bypassed the main elevators, Liam guiding her to a private one that required both a keycard and a fingerprint scan. The top 3 floors are mine, he explained as the elevator began its smooth ascent. The rest of the building houses selected tenants, people who value privacy and can afford to pay for it. People in your line of work? Emma asked. A slight smile. People in various lines of work that benefit from discretion. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse that took Emma's breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the Manhattan skyline. The space was open and modern, decorated in shades of gray and black, with carefully chosen pieces of furniture that managed to be both stylish and comfortable. Everything was immaculate, almost unnaturally clean. Do you actually live here? Emma asked, stepping into the space cautiously. Or is this just for show? I live here, Liam confirmed, removing his suit jacket and draping it over a chair. With the jacket gone, Emma could see the way his dress shirt fit his frame, could see the subtle tension in his shoulders that suggested he was less calm than he appeared. Though I'll admit I'm not here as much as I should be. My work keeps me mobile. A woman emerged from what Emma assumed was the kitchen, older, maybe 60, with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. Mr. Moretti, I've prepared the guest suite as requested, and there are refreshments in the living area. Thank you, Maria. This is Emma Collins. She'll be staying with us for a while. Liam's tone was gentle when addressing the woman, revealing yet another layer to his personality. Emma, Maria manages my household. Anything you need, ask her. Maria smiled warmly at Emma. Welcome, dear. I'm sure this is all very overwhelming. Why don't you come with me? I'll show you where you'll be staying and you can freshen up. Emma glanced at Liam, who nodded encouragingly. Go ahead. I have some calls to make, but we'll talk more afterward. The guest suite was larger than Emma's entire apartment. The bedroom featured a king-sized bed with luxurious linens. The attached bathroom had a soaking tub and a shower with more jets than Emma knew what to do with. French doors opened onto a private terrace with views of the Hudson River. There are clothes in the closet, Maria explained, opening the doors to reveal an array of options in various sizes. Mr. Moretti wasn't sure of your size, so there's a selection. Toiletries are stocked in the bathroom. If you need anything else, there's an intercom by the bed. This is too much, Emma said, feeling overwhelmed. I don't need all this. Maria's expression softened with understanding. Mr. Moretti takes the comfort of his guests very seriously. Please make yourself at home. You're safe here. After Maria left, Emma stood in the middle of the opulent suite, trying to process the surreal turn her life had taken. 12 hours ago, she'd been worried about rent and work schedules. Now she was standing in a penthouse in Tribeca, wearing the same clothes she'd worn to serve drinks. Her entire reality shifted into something unrecognizable. She showered, more because she needed the time to think than because she needed to be clean. The hot water and steam provided a temporary escape, a moment of normalcy in the chaos. When she emerged, she found comfortable clothes in the closet. Designer labels, soft fabrics, everything perfectly new. Emma dressed in black leggings and an oversized cashmere sweater, then stood at the window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there was her apartment, her real life, the world she understood, but it felt impossibly distant now, separated not just by miles but by knowledge she couldn't unlearn. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Emma, may I come in?" Liam's voice respectful, seeking permission in his own home. "Yes." He entered, having changed into dark slacks and a gray Henley that made him look younger, less formal. In his hands were 2 glasses and a bottle of wine. "I thought you might need this." "I don't usually drink on the job," Emma said, then laughed at the absurdity of the statement, "though I suppose I'm not exactly on the job anymore." "No," Liam agreed, moving to the terrace doors. "May I?" They stepped outside into the cool night air. The terrace had comfortable seating and subtle lighting that didn't interfere with the view. Liam poured wine for both of them, then settled into one of the chairs, gesturing for Emma to do the same. "I owe you a proper explanation," he said, "about who I am, what my family does, and what tonight really means." "I'm listening." Emma took a sip of wine. Expensive, smooth, probably worth more than she wanted to know. Liam was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "My grandfather, Antonio Moretti, came to New York with a dream of building something permanent, but he arrived to find a city already divided, already controlled by families who'd established themselves decades earlier. He couldn't compete through conventional means, so he found gaps, services that weren't being provided, problems that weren't being solved." "What kind of problems?" "Neighborhood disputes, business conflicts, protection for shops that couldn't afford official security. My grandfather built a reputation for being fair, for keeping his word, for solving problems efficiently." Liam swirled his wine absently. "Over time, that reputation grew. The family expanded. We diversified our interest. Real estate, construction companies, consulting firms, all legitimate on paper. But," Emma prompted, "but the foundation of everything we do exists in relationships built on trust and fear in equal measure. We maintain order in territories that official channels can't fully control. We settle disputes that would otherwise escalate into chaos. We protect businesses that pay for protection." "That's extortion," Emma said quietly. "It's complicated." Liam met her eyes steadily. "Yes, businesses pay us, but in exchange they receive real protection. Their property is secure. Disputes are settled fairly. They operate without interference from less principled groups. Some might call that extortion. Others call it a service." Emma didn't know how to respond to that. The moral ambiguity was dizzying. "And Vincent wants what? Your territory? Your business?" "Both. And more than that. He wants recognition that his family is legitimate competition, that the Calabreses can challenge the Morettis on our own ground." Liam's expression hardened. "My father spent 30 years building relationships with the other families, creating agreements that keep this city functioning. Vincent would tear all of that down for short-term gain." "Why involve me? Why make tonight about threatening someone who has nothing to do with your business?" "Because that's how Vincent operates. He looks for emotional leverage because he can't compete on strategic grounds." Liam leaned forward, intensity radiating from him. "Emma, I need you to understand something. In 7 years, you're the only person outside my organization that I've maintained consistent contact with, the only routine I've allowed myself that doesn't directly serve business purposes." The bar was your escape, Emma realized. More than that, it was real. Those 2 hours twice a week, they were the only time I could be something other than Antonio Moretti's grandson, Dominic Moretti's son, the head of the family business. You saw me as just another customer. You treated me normally. The vulnerability in his admission surprised Emma. "I didn't know what to see you as. You never gave me enough information to form a complete picture." "Intentionally," Liam smiled slightly. "I was protecting that space, keeping it separate from everything else. But in doing so, I created a pattern. And patterns are dangerous in my world." They sat in silence for a moment, the city humming with life far below them. Emma tried to reconcile the man beside her, speaking openly about his family's criminal enterprise, with the quiet customer who'd ordered the same drink for 7 years. "What happens now?" she asked finally. "Now we wait and assess. My people are gathering information about Vincent's current operations, his alliances, his resources. We need to understand what tonight was really about, whether it was genuine aggression or just theatrical positioning." "And what about me? How long do I stay here?" as long as necessary to ensure your safety. Liam's gaze held hers. Emma, I won't lie to you. This situation is complicated. The best-case scenario is that Vincent realizes using you as leverage isn't worth the escalation it would cause. Worst case, I don't want to know the worst case. Emma interrupted. Fair enough. He stood, moving to the terrace railing, looking out at the skyline. I'm sorry. This isn't what you signed up for when you took a job serving drinks. Emma joined him at the railing, maintaining some distance but close enough to speak quietly. Can I ask you something? Why did you keep coming back? 7 years is a long time to maintain a routine just for a sense of normalcy. Liam was quiet for so long Emma thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost reluctant. The first time I came to the Velvet Room, I was having the worst day of my professional life. Multiple deals falling apart, internal disputes, pressure from every direction. I walked into that bar planning to have one drink and figure out my next move. What happened? You served me. You smiled. Not the practice smile people use when they want something, but a genuine expression. You made small talk that wasn't intrusive, gave me space that wasn't cold. For 20 minutes, I was just another customer to you. Not a Moretti, not a business asset, just a man having a drink. He turned to look at her. I'd forgotten what that felt like. Emma's chest tightened at the loneliness implicit in that statement. So you came back. I came back. And every time you treated me exactly the same way. No judgment. No curiosity about who I was or what I did. Just consistent, genuine service. It became... He paused, searching for words. It became the most honest interaction in my life. Because I didn't know who you were. Yes. Liam's expression held something like regret. And now you do. And I've destroyed the one authentic thing I had. Emma didn't know what to say to that. Part of her wanted to reassure him, but another part, the part still processing everything, couldn't quite offer that comfort. I should let you rest, Liam said, stepping back from the railing. It's been an exhausting night. Tomorrow we'll have more information and we can discuss next steps. Liam, Emma stopped him before he could leave. Thank you for being honest with me. I know you didn't have to explain everything. You deserved the truth, especially after I dragged you into this. He moved toward the door, then paused. Emma, the money I left you, that was before tonight. Before any of this happened. I want you to know it wasn't calculated or manipulative. I genuinely just wanted to help. I believe you, Emma said, surprised to find it was true. After he left, Emma remained on the terrace, her wine forgotten as she stared out at Manhattan. The city looked different from this height. Smaller, more manageable, less overwhelming. But she knew that was an illusion. Down there in those streets, people like Vincent Calabrese were making plans, calculating moves, seeing her as a piece on a chessboard she hadn't known she was playing on. Her phone buzzed again. Sarah, the 5th message in an hour. Emma finally opened her texts. Sarah, M, where are you? Marcus won't tell me anything. Sarah, the authorities came and asked questions, but I didn't know what to tell them. Sarah, please just let me know you're okay, Sarah. I'm really worried, Sarah. Emma, please. Emma typed out a response, then deleted it, then tried again. What could she possibly say? Hey, I'm fine, just staying at a crime boss's penthouse while he figures out if his rivals are going to use me as leverage in their territorial dispute. Finally, she settled on, I'm safe. Can't explain everything right now, but I'm okay. I promise I'll call you soon. Sarah's response came immediately. Thank God. I've been freaking out. Marcus said you had to leave for safety reasons, which sounds terrifying. It's complicated, Emma typed back, but I'm in good hands. I'll explain when I can. She powered off her phone after that, unable to deal with more questions she couldn't answer. Sleep should have been impossible, but exhaustion won out over anxiety. Emma crawled into the impossibly comfortable bed, surrounded by luxury that felt foreign and unsettling, and drifted into restless dreams where corner booths and threatening smiles blended together into incomprehensible narratives. She woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to cover, and the smell of coffee drifting from somewhere in the penthouse. For a disoriented moment, Emma couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came flooding back. Vincent's cold smile, Liam's hand in hers, the decision that had brought her here. Maria appeared with a breakfast tray before Emma had fully processed being awake. Good morning, dear. I thought you might like something in your room, given the circumstances. Mr. Moretti is in his office handling business, but he asked me to let you know he'll be available whenever you're ready to talk. The breakfast was elaborate. Fresh fruit, Pastries, eggs prepared perfectly, coffee that tasted better than anything Emma had ever made herself. She ate on the terrace, watching the city wake up below her, trying to find some sense of equilibrium in a world that had tilted completely off its axis. When she finally ventured out of the guest suite, she found Liam in what was clearly his office, a room lined with books, dominated by a massive desk, with multiple monitors displaying what looked like security feeds and financial data. He looked up when she appeared in the doorway, and something in his expression softened. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I expected," Emma admitted. "Maria brought breakfast. She's wonderful. She's been with my family since I was a child. I trust her more than almost anyone." Liam gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Come in. We need to discuss where things stand." Emma settled into the leather chair, her stomach nodding with anxiety. "What have you learned?" "Vincent's making moves throughout the city, meeting with families that have historically been neutral, testing alliances, building resources." Liam's expression was serious. "Last night wasn't theatrical posturing. He's genuinely preparing for a territorial challenge." "What does that mean for me?" "It means you can't go back to your apartment. Not yet. Probably not for several weeks at minimum." Liam leaned back in his chair. "Emma, I know this isn't what you want to hear, but your life as you knew it, that's on hold indefinitely." The reality of that statement hit Emma like a physical blow. Her apartment, her job, her routine, all of it suspended, possibly destroyed, because she'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time. "This isn't fair," she said quietly. "No," Liam agreed. "It's not. And if I could undo it, give you back your normal life, I would, but I can't. All I can do is keep you safe while we navigate through this." Emma looked at this man, this criminal, this protector, this person who'd been a stranger and a constant simultaneously for 7 years, and realized she was angry. Angry at him for creating the pattern that had made her visible, angry at Vincent for threatening her, angry at herself for taking his hand and trusting him when every logical instinct had screamed to run. But underneath the anger was something else, a strange, unwelcome awareness that despite everything, despite the fear and the uncertainty, she didn't feel entirely unsafe in his presence, that the man who'd ordered whiskey neat for 7 years had revealed himself to be exactly what he'd seemed, someone seeking a moment of genuine human connection in a life defined by strategy and power. "What do I do now?" Emma asked, hearing the exhaustion in her own voice. "Now?" Liam stood, moving around the desk to sit in the chair beside her rather than across from her, a subtle shift in dynamic that felt significant. "Now you learn about my world, because whether we like it or not, you're part of it, and the only way to stay safe is to understand the rules." Emma looked into his dark eyes and saw determination, regret, and something else she couldn't quite name. "Teach me then. Show me how to survive in your empire." Liam reached out, his hand hovering near hers before gently covering it. "I will. I promise you, Emma. I'll keep you safe, no matter what it costs." As his fingers intertwined with hers, Emma realized she'd crossed another threshold. She wasn't just a witness anymore, wasn't just collateral damage in someone else's war. She was inside the empire now, and there was no going back to the woman who'd simply served drinks and asked no questions. That version of Emma Collins was gone, replaced by someone who would need to learn to navigate a world of power, danger, and impossible choices. And the man beside her, Liam Moretti, crime boss, protector, the customer from the corner booth, would be her guide through it all. 3 weeks had passed since Emma Collins walked out of the Velvet Room and into Liam Moretti's world. 3 weeks of living in a penthouse that felt like a gilded cage, of learning names and faces and rules she'd never known existed. Emma stood at the window of the small library on the second floor, watching the city below. People living normal lives that felt increasingly foreign to her. "You're up early." Liam's voice came from the doorway. He was already dressed in another impeccably tailored suit, his hair still damp from a shower. "Couldn't sleep," Emma admitted. "Sarah texted again yesterday asking when I'm coming back." "What did you tell her?" "That it's complicated and I'll explain everything soon." Emma turned from the window. "Except I don't know if that's true anymore." Liam crossed the room to stand beside her, maintaining the careful distance he'd preserved for 3 weeks. Despite the forced proximity, he'd been respectful, almost formal. It was both comforting and frustrating. "Vincent's been quiet," he said. "Too quiet. Whatever he's planning, it's bigger than a simple territorial dispute. And I'm still the weakness he thinks he can exploit." "Yes." Liam's jaw tightened. "Which is why I need to ask something of you. There's a meeting tonight. representatives from several families. Vincent will be there, and I want you to come with me. What? Why would you? That seems incredibly dangerous. It is dangerous, but it's also strategic. Liam's expression was intense. If you appear at this meeting, confident, clearly under my protection, visibly unafraid, it sends a message that you're not a weakness to exploit, that you're under the full protection of my family, and any move against you would be considered a direct act of aggression. Emma processed this. You want to use me as a statement. I want to use the perception of our connection as a statement. There's a difference. Is there? You're asking me to walk into a room full of people like Vincent and pretend I belong there. I'm asking you to trust me. Liam moved closer. To let me show these people that you're someone who matters to me. Someone they can't touch without consequences. 3 weeks ago she would have said no immediately, but 3 weeks of living in Liam's world had changed her. If I do this, she said slowly, I need something from you. Honesty. Complete honesty. If I'm going to be part of this, I need to understand all of it. Liam studied her for a long moment. All right. What do you want to know? Everything. How your family really operates. What Vincent actually wants. What happens to me when this is over? He led her to his office, poured them both coffee, then settled into his chair. My family's operations span multiple sectors. On paper, we own 17 legitimate businesses. Restaurants, construction companies, real estate holdings. These generate real revenue and employ hundreds of people. And off paper, we provide services that exist in legal gray areas, protection for businesses where official law enforcement is insufficient, dispute resolution for conflicts that can't be settled through conventional channels. And we take a percentage of everything that happens in territories under our protection. That's racketeering, Emma said quietly. By legal definition, yes. But territories under Moretti protection have lower rates of serious incidents, fewer business failures, more stable communities. We have a vested interest in prosperity. He leaned forward. The world isn't divided neatly into legal and illegal, moral and immoral. It's complicated. Emma tried to reconcile her moral framework with these explanations. And Vincent? What does he want? Liam pulled up a map on one of his monitors, showing different colored sections overlaying Manhattan. These blue areas, that's us. Red is Vincent's family in Brooklyn. Vincent wants Manhattan. Specifically the territories my family has protected for 3 generations. That's a lot of territory. It represents billions in annual economic activity. But more than money, he wants legitimacy. The Calabrese family has always been considered secondary. Vincent thinks taking Moretti territory would change that perception. And I became a symbol of your vulnerability, Emma realized. Unless I show up as something other than a victim tonight. Yes. Emma joined him at the window, standing close. What happens if this doesn't work? If Vincent isn't deterred, then things escalate. He'll make moves against our business interests, try to turn our allies. Liam's voice was tight with tension. I've spent 5 years building relationships, maintaining peace. Vincent could destroy all of that. You really care about this? It's not just about power or money. I believe in protecting what my family built, in maintaining order. He turned to look at her. And I believe that I owe you better than what you've gotten. You deserve to stay in that normal, safe life. You didn't drag me, Emma said softly. I took your hand that night. I made that choice. Liam's hand lifted, almost touching her face, before dropping back to his side. Emma, I'll do it, she interrupted. I'll go to the meeting tonight, but I need you to understand something. Over these past 3 weeks, I've gotten to know you, the real you. And what I've learned is complicated and messy, but it's real. What are you saying? I'm saying that if I'm going to walk into that meeting tonight and convince a room full of dangerous people that I matter to you, then I need to know. Do I actually matter to you? Liam's careful control cracked. Emma, you've mattered to me since the first night I walked into that bar 7 years ago. You've been the only genuine thing in my life. Do you have any idea how rare that is? Then why the distance? Why the careful formality? Because I was trying to protect you. From me. From my world. His hand finally made contact, fingers brushing her cheek. But it's too late for that, isn't it? He closed the distance between them, his lips finding hers in a kiss that carried 3 weeks of restraint and 7 years of unacknowledged connection. Emma responded without thinking, pulling him closer. The kiss was intense, almost desperate, years of careful boundaries dissolving in a moment. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Liam rested his forehead against hers. This is a terrible idea. Probably, Emma agreed. But I'm tired of pretending there's nothing here. If we make this real instead of just strategic, the danger increases. I'm already in danger. At least this way it's true. The rest of the day passed in preparation. Maria produced an elegant black dress. Liam walked Emma through the key players who would be at the meeting, explaining relationships and potential reactions. Vincent will try to provoke you, he warned. Your job is to remain calm, confident, and completely unfazed. The car arrived at 8 p.m. The meeting was held at an upscale Italian restaurant in Little Italy, neutral territory. As they pulled up, Emma felt her anxiety spike. Liam's hand found hers, squeezing gently. You can do this. The restaurant had been closed for regular business. As they entered the private room, conversations dropped. Emma felt the weight of multiple gazes assessing her. Vincent Calabrese stood near the bar, his cold blue eyes finding Emma immediately. Moretti, I see you've brought company. How unexpected. I thought it appropriate for Emma to understand the business that affects her safety, Liam replied. How thoughtful. Vincent approached. Miss Collins, tell me, how are you finding your unexpected vacation? Emma met his gaze steadily. I'm learning that life is full of surprises, Mr. Calabrese. I'm grateful to have good people looking out for me. Good people, Vincent repeated. Is that what you call them? I call them what they've proven themselves to be. And in my experience, actions matter more than assumptions. Something flickered in Vincent's eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or reassessment. The meeting itself was structured but tense. Representatives discussing territorial boundaries and profit-sharing agreements. Emma sat beside Liam, silent but attentive, her presence a constant reminder of the personal stakes. She watched him work, negotiating, mediating, commanding respect through competence. This was Liam in his element. Vincent made several more attempts to unsettle her throughout the evening. Pointed comments, insinuations. Each time, Emma responded with measured calm. By the time the meeting concluded, Emma could sense a shift. She wasn't being viewed as a victim anymore. As they prepared to leave, Vincent approached Emma when Liam stepped aside briefly. You're smarter than I gave you credit for, Vincent said quietly. Playing the loyal companion. It's impressive. I'm not playing anything, Emma replied. I'm simply being myself. Are you? Or have you convinced yourself that you belong in this world? Vincent's smile was cold. That confidence only extends as far as Moretti's protection, and protection can be withdrawn. Is that a threat? It's an observation. This world has rules, and one of those rules is that nothing, and no one, is truly safe. Liam appeared at Emma's side, his expression darkening. Is there a problem? No problem, Vincent said smoothly, just offering Miss Collins some friendly advice. Emma has all the guidance she needs. The ride back was silent, both processing the evening's implications. Emma stared out the window, Vincent's words echoing in her mind. Inside the penthouse, Emma kicked off her heels. You were incredible tonight, Liam said. The way you handled Vincent. You showed them you weren't intimidated. I was terrified, Emma admitted. Vincent's threat at the end wasn't just bravado. Liam's expression was grim. This isn't over, Emma. Tonight escalated things. He saw that you matter to me. Really matter. Because I do, Emma said, turning to face him. That kiss this morning, that wasn't strategy. What I feel for you isn't strategy. Liam crossed the room, pulling her into his arms. No, it's not. And that terrifies me more than anything Vincent could threaten, because it makes you genuinely valuable to him, genuinely vulnerable. Then we face it together, Emma said. No more careful distance. No more pretending. His kiss was his answer, deep, desperate, full of everything they'd been holding back. When they finally broke apart, Liam's eyes held hers. There's no going back after this. Once we cross this line, everything changes. Everything already changed the night I took your hand and left the bar. As he led her toward his bedroom, Emma realized she'd crossed the final threshold. She wasn't playing a role anymore, wasn't pretending to belong in Liam Moretti's world. She was choosing it, choosing him. Despite the danger, despite the impossibility, despite every logical reason to run, the bartender from the Velvet Room was gone, replaced by someone stronger, braver, more certain. There was no going back, only forward, into whatever came next, together. Emma woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the warmth of Liam's arm draped across her waist. For a moment, she allowed herself to simply exist in that space, safe, content, connected to someone in a way she'd never experienced before. Everything had changed last night, not just physically, but fundamentally. She'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross, made a choice she couldn't unmake, and she had no regrets. Liam stirred beside her, his dark eyes opening to find her watching him. "Good morning," he murmured, his voice rough with sleep. "Good morning." Emma touched his face, tracing the strong line of his jaw. "No regrets?" "None." His hand covered hers. "You?" "None," she confirmed, "though I imagine today is going to be complicated. Today and every day after." Liam agreed. He sat up, the sheets pooling at his waist. Vincent saw what he needed to see last night. Now he'll make his move. As if summoning the chaos through speaking of it, Liam's phone buzzed urgently on the nightstand. He reached for it, his expression darkening as he read the messages. "What is it?" Emma asked, sitting up as well. "Vincent's making his play. 3 of our protected businesses were approached this morning with offers to switch allegiance. He's also meeting with the Russo family. They've been neutral for years, but if he brings them to his side..." Liam was already moving, getting dressed with efficient purpose. "What does that mean?" "It means the careful balance I've maintained for 5 years is about to collapse unless I can counter his moves." He paused, looking at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Emma, I need to ask something of you. Something bigger than last night's meeting." "What?" "Come with me today. Not just as someone under my protection, but as my partner. Let me show the families that you're not a weakness. You're my strength." Emma processed this request. "You want me to be visible, publicly connected to you. More than that. I want you to be involved, to meet my people, understand the businesses, see how this actually works." Liam sat on the edge of the bed, taking her hands in his. "I know what I'm asking. I know it's a lot. But if we're doing this, if we're really together, then you need to be part of my world completely. Not hidden away, but present." 3 weeks ago, the request would have terrified her. Now, after everything she'd learned and experienced, Emma found herself nodding. "Okay. Show me your empire. Teach me how to be your queen." The words hung between them, weighted with significance. Liam's grip on her hands tightened. "That's exactly what you'll be. And once the families see that, once they understand you're not going anywhere, Vincent's leverage disappears." They dressed quickly. Emma in tailored pants and a silk blouse that Maria had somehow procured. Liam in another perfectly cut suit. Tony and 2 other men were waiting when they emerged, along with a 3rd car that hadn't been there the night before. "Security's been increased," Liam explained as they descended to the garage. "Until we understand Vincent's full strategy, we're not taking chances." Their first stop was a construction site in Midtown, one of the Moretti family's legitimate businesses. The foreman, a thick-shouldered man named Sal, greeted Liam with obvious respect, and Emma with curious assessment. "Sal, this is Emma Collins. She'll be accompanying me to meetings from now on," Liam said, his tone making it clear this wasn't a request or suggestion but a statement of fact. "Ma'am," Sal nodded to Emma. "Welcome." As they toured the site, Liam explained the business, how the construction company operated, how it connected to other Moretti interests, how it provided legitimate employment, while also serving as a hub for coordination and communication. Emma watched how the workers interacted with Liam, respect mixed with genuine affection. These weren't people who feared him. They trusted him. "This is what my grandfather built," Liam said quietly as they stood overlooking the construction. "Real businesses providing real jobs. Yes, they're connected to other interests, but they're also the foundation of communities." Their next stop was a restaurant in Little Italy, one Emma recognized from last night's meeting, though they entered through a different door this time, into private offices above the dining room. Several men were already waiting, including the older gentleman who'd spoken to Liam the previous evening. Emma recognized him as Angelo Marchetti, head of one of the oldest families in the city. "Liam, Miss Collins." Angelo stood, gesturing to seats. "Thank you for coming." "Angelo." Liam's tone was respectful. "I appreciate you reaching out. We need to discuss Vincent's movements. He approached my nephew this morning with proposals that, frankly, concern me." Angelo's gaze moved to Emma. "Miss Collins, forgive my directness, but your presence in Liam's life has accelerated situations that were already tense." "I understand," Emma said, keeping her voice steady. "I didn't choose to become involved, but I'm here now, and I want to understand how I can help rather than hinder." Something shifted in Angelo's expression. Approval, perhaps. That's a mature perspective. Vincent is using you as a symbol of Liam's supposed weakness. But if you're not a weakness, if you're clearly an asset, then his entire strategy falls apart. That's why I brought her today, Liam said. I want the families to see that Emma isn't hidden away or protected like a liability. She's with me, by choice, fully aware of what that means. The meeting continued for over an hour. Discussions of territorial agreements, Vincent's overtures to neutral families, strategies for maintaining the delicate balance of power. Emma listened more than she spoke, but when she did contribute, her observations were met with consideration rather than dismissal. By the time they left, Emma could see the shift. Angelo wasn't viewing her as a complication anymore. He was viewing her as part of Liam's organizational structure. That went well, Liam said as they returned to the car. Angelo's support is crucial. If he backs us publicly, Vincent loses significant credibility. Us, Emma repeated. When did it become us instead of you? Liam pulled her close in the back seat, heedless of Tony's presence in the front. The moment you walked into that meeting last night, the moment you chose this instead of running, the moment you became mine. The possessiveness in his tone should have bothered her. Instead, it sent warmth through her chest. And you're mine, she said firmly. That's how this works, right? Partnership, not ownership. His smile was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way she rarely saw. Partnership. I like that. Their afternoon included 3 more stops. A consulting firm that Emma quickly realized handled dispute resolution, a real estate office managing Moretti properties, and finally a restaurant where they met with 2 more family representatives. At each location, Emma was introduced not as someone under protection, but as Liam's partner. The message was clear and consistent. She wasn't going anywhere. By evening, Emma was exhausted but exhilarated. She'd spent the day inside Liam's world, really inside it, not just observing from the protected distance of his penthouse. One more stop, Liam said as they drove downtown. This one's important. They pulled up to the Velvet Room. Emma's heart clenched at the sight of the familiar entrance, the place where everything had started 7 years ago. Why are we here? She asked. Because this is where it began, and because the people who work here deserve to know you're all right. Liam helped her out of the car. And because I want Vincent to know that we're not hiding. Inside, the bar was preparing for the evening shift. Sarah was behind the bar and froze when she saw Emma enter with Liam, their hands intertwined, security flanking them. Sarah's voice was uncertain. Oh my God, Emma! Emma rushed forward, embracing her friend. I'm so sorry. I know I've been terrible about communication. Are you okay? What's happening? Marcus said you had to leave for safety but wouldn't explain why. Sarah pulled back, her eyes moving from Emma to Liam and back. Are you with him? Like, really with him? Yes, Emma said simply. It's complicated, but yes. Marcus emerged from the back office, his expression unreadable. Emma, Mr. Moretti, this is unexpected. Marcus. Liam's tone was respectful. I wanted Emma to be able to see her workplace, her friends, to know that she hasn't abandoned this part of her life, even though circumstances have changed. Changed how exactly? Marcus asked, though Emma suspected he already knew. Emma is with me now, under my complete protection and part of my organization. Liam's statement was clear. The Velvet Room remains neutral territory as always, but I wanted there to be no confusion about Emma's status. Marcus nodded slowly. I see. Emma, your position here is always open if you want it, but I understand if your priorities have shifted. Emma looked around the bar, the space where she'd worked for 7 years, where she'd built a life, where she'd served the mysterious man in the corner booth, without knowing it would lead to this. My priorities have shifted, she admitted, but this place will always matter to me. The people here matter to me. Sarah hugged her again. I don't fully understand what's happening, but I'm glad you're safe. And happy. You look happy, Em. Different, but happy. I am, Emma realized. Different, definitely, but happy. They stayed for another hour, Emma introducing Liam properly to the staff, showing him behind the bar where she'd worked, sitting in the corner booth where he'd spent every Tuesday and Friday for 7 years. 7 years, Emma said, sliding into the familiar leather seat. You sat here for 7 years and I never really knew you. You knew me better than anyone, Liam corrected, sitting beside her instead of across. You knew the parts of me that existed outside the empire, outside the business, the parts that were just human. And now I know all of you, the empire and the human. Emma leaned against him. It's overwhelming sometimes, but it's real. It's real. Liam confirmed. And it's ours now. Whatever comes next, we face it together. They returned to the penthouse as evening turned to night, the city lights creating a glittering backdrop. Inside, Maria had prepared dinner, a quiet meal, just the two of them, a moment of normalcy in the midst of chaos. Vincent will have heard about today, Liam said over wine. He'll know that you're not hiding, that you're actively involved. It changes his calculations. Does it make me more of a target or less? Emma asked. Both, paradoxically. More visible but also more protected. Attacking you now would be attacking the full weight of the Moretti organization. Liam reached across the table, taking her hand. But I won't lie to you, Emma. There's still danger. There will always be some level of danger in this life. I know, Emma said. And I'm choosing it anyway. Choosing you anyway. The word came through later that night. Vincent had withdrawn his overtures to the neutral families, had pulled back from the aggressive expansion. Angelo Marchetti had made his support of the Morettis public, and several other families had followed suit. It's not over, Liam cautioned as they reviewed the reports in his office. Vincent will regroup, try different strategies, but we've won this round. We, Emma said again, savoring the word. I like being part of a we. Liam pulled her into his arms, holding her close. You're not just part of it. You're essential to it. To me. The kiss that followed was tender, different from the desperate passion of the night before. This was about connection, about commitment, about choosing each other despite impossible circumstances. Later, as they lay in bed with the city lights streaming through the windows, Emma reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From the bartender who'd asked no questions to the woman who'd walked confidently through Liam's empire, claiming her place at his side. What are you thinking? Liam asked, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. That 7 years ago, if someone had told me this is where I'd end up, I would have thought they were crazy. Emma turned to look at him. But now, being here with you, knowing what I know, being part of what you've built, it feels right. Complicated and dangerous and sometimes terrifying, but right. You've become my queen, Liam said softly. Not because I claimed you, but because you claimed yourself. You walked into my world and made it yours. Our world, Emma corrected. That's how this works now, remember? Partnership. Partnership, Liam agreed, pulling her closer. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Emma settled against him, feeling safer than she had any right to feel given the circumstances. But safety wasn't just about physical protection. It was about trust, about knowing someone had your back completely. The bartender from the Velvet Room was gone, transformed into something she never imagined she could be. But the core of who she was remained. The woman who'd served drinks with grace and dignity, who'd treated everyone the same regardless of their status, who'd chosen genuine connection over fear. That woman had simply expanded, grown, adapted to circumstances she never could have predicted. And as sleep claimed her, wrapped in Liam's arms with the city humming beyond the windows, Emma knew with absolute certainty that she'd made the right choice. She'd taken his hand that first night and stepped into the unknown. Now, weeks later, she understood that the unknown had become home, their empire, their world, their future, together.